the extraordinary influence that the American sex trafficker had on key figures in the British establishment.
We care for patients who are dying of hunger while we are ourselves started to starve.
The UK has been going through a moment, a long one, so I decided to move my family to a Muslim country. Welcome to Egypt. Here's what I learned. Alright, so to give you a little bit of context, the reason why we moved out here was to give ourselves a bit of a break as a family, you know, put the kids in an environment where they could focus on their spiritual growth without the stress and the distraction of living in the climate that we found ourselves in the West. I'm sure there's a lot of people from all different backgrounds who are feeling like that. So whether you're Muslim or not Muslim, I'm sure there's something that's going to be beneficial for you in this video. So yeah, here's what I found. So one of the first things we noticed when we got here was just how warm people are here. Like, everyone says hello to each other, people give salams, assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum salam. When you go to the mosque, when you go to the shops, everyone's greeting each other. And so many people were so keen to offer help when they heard that we'd moved out here for a little while. So that was just amazing. A few examples of that are my kid's school teacher, who has cooked us food, and even strangers. We were going to the sports centre to get registered, and you know, we arrived at the wrong gate, and strangers were like, oh no, it's that gate over there, we can drive you there. Honestly, it was amazing. And even if you're not Muslim, the hospitality here, people are so happy that you've come to visit their country, that you've tried to become a part of their country. Yeah, the hospitality of Muslim lands is unmatched. One of the other things that was quite remarkable is just how much spiritual wisdom there is everywhere. Even the taxi drivers, you get into a taxi and they'll be playing the Quran like 9 times out of 10. And I remember when we first came, it was the heat, the peak heat of the summer months, and I'd get in, and in my basic Arabic I'd say like Jaw harra, like the weather's hot today, and the taxi drivers, like, rather than laughing it off, they'd turn it into an opportunity to tell me about how, it's going to sound crazy, but like how the fires of hell are far hotter, and it's just a reminder to be a good person, you know. In you know, if you're not Muslim, then that might sound kind of extreme to you, but for a Muslim, you know, these are really good reminders, and they're everywhere. Alright, let's see if we can grab a car and I'll show you the other side of Cairo. And here, the ancient world informs the modern. You'll find there are buildings that are over 1,000 years old, and next to them there'll be an apartment complex that's been built 20 years ago. People are just living on top of history, and I think that deep connection to their past gives the people here a really strong sense of identity. One of the sad things in the UK is that we'll teach history, certain aspects of it, but some of us are in denial about certain aspects of history, and here, whether it's the good or the bad, all of it informs the people and their psyche here. Like, this is the land of the prophets, you know, the Abrahamic prophets. This is also the land of the ancient Egyptians and their empires, and all of that melds together to inform a way of thinking that I just don't think you can find in the West. And welcome to the Qala' al-Salah ad-Din, otherwise known as the Citadel of Salah ad-Din, or Cairo Citadel. So the Citadel was originally established by Salah ad-Din, and then eventually was taken over by the Ottomans, and even for a brief period the British had it until it was reclaimed by the Egyptians. So this is Muhammad Ali Masjid, one of the many masjids inside the Citadel, and it's from this fortress that Salah ad-Din governed Egypt and would actually go on to conquer Jerusalem. This masjid has been here for around 700 years. So that minaret up there has been calling prayers 5 times a day, 365 days for 700 years. I'm just trying to imagine all the people, all the soldiers, leaders, generals who passed through here over the centuries. So here they've got some of the artifacts from the war that the Egyptians fought against the Israelis. They didn't do so well against the Israelis at the time. But it's interesting to see how the conflicts between these parts of the world have been raging for well over a millennia and are still going. One of the things that you kind of have to reconcile with places like this, despite its beauty, its strength, its significance, you still have to reconcile where the Muslim world is now and where Egypt is now. Like, imagine it was from here that Salahuddin would have planned the excursions against crusaders and destroyed garrisons in Gaza. And now, how things are. So one of the other things is material desire. It does not seem to be such a crazy thing here compared to, say, back in the UK. I mean, okay, that's ridiculous. It is. We're in the market, people are hustling to make a living. But it just seems different here, you know? People have a purpose. Like these shop sellers, if you can hear, they're listening to Quran. And I just went to pray, and yeah, all the shop sellers close their shop and they go to pray. And so just to finish that point, it's not so much about material desire as it is about spiritual connection. That spiritual connection that you find here gives people purpose. So even the act of selling clothes in a market gives people a direction and a purpose that you don't get in the UK. You know, people are just trying to survive out there. But when you give them that spiritual connection, they have a purpose. Another realization is how living in the desert has a really strange effect. You start to realize how dependent you are on the people around you and on God. So right now it looks really lush where we are, but we live in a compound and they go to great lengths to maintain it. But every time we leave the compound and we have to drive through the desert to get into old Cairo, it reminds me, it gives me that feeling. And I guess the only way I could describe that feeling is it's somewhere between a stark sadness and also gratitude that we have people. And I think that's probably why there is such a strong sense of community and also a strong devotion to God. And another thing, despite what people say, Muslims and Christians live together in peace here. I've travelled to Palestine, I've travelled to Lebanon, now I live here in Egypt, and one thing I've seen is the peace that exists between Muslims and Christians. I see churches, I see mosques. I've seen a church next to a mosque, like right next to a mosque. And so I think the lesson for me is that our mutual love of Jesus, peace be upon him, can be a uniting factor. There is also a dark side. I found you have to accept that there's a fine balance between security and freedom, and it seems in a lot of Muslim lands that that needle tends a little bit more towards security. There isn't a complete freedom of speech, and the imams who give sermons every Friday are not completely free to say what they want to, especially about the situation in Palestine. But what I take from that is how the people here are amazing, and I've learned to be extremely cautious and skeptical of power and authority. But I suppose that's growing to be the case across the world, including the UK and the West. Living in a Muslim country, it's not heaven, but there is a sense of peace, and I think you get that from community and a strong sense of faith. So I'm going to be coming back to the UK, and I'm going to be bringing these lessons with me to try and make my community a better place for everyone, whether you're Christian or Muslim or Jewish or Hindu or Buddhist or atheist, because that's all we can really do for each other, is try and make the world a better place. A huge shout out to Make Hijrah, who have a YouTube channel and organization that helps people move to Muslim countries. Even if you're non-Muslim and you would want to try and relocate to a Muslim country, I highly recommend checking out their YouTube channel. It's been a huge source of information for me, and they've actually provided so much information. I've messaged them and they've been really cool. And a huge shout out to Life of Safe, who also provides incredibly detailed information on his YouTube channel, and who was a huge help in helping us move out here as well. So their channels will be linked in the description. But yeah, I hope you guys like this one. I hope if you are thinking about moving to a Muslim country, these lessons were helpful. But if you want to hear a little bit more about the practicalities, then I guess, yeah, go check out those other channels. And if you want, then I can try and put together a video as well. Like and subscribe, all the usual stuff to join me on my journey of learning more about the world. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.